some 5 years ago. Marc Evans, the director, Nia Roberts, who plays Gwen in the film, and myself took a journey to Patagonia to follow the footsteps of the first Welsh settlers who went there around 1865. Marc just said to us, "I've got an idea." And he told us this idea of an old lady and a young boy travelling to Wales looking for her past, and the idea of a young girl and a young man from Wales going to Patagonia looking for their future.
Rhys, ti'n gwybod trip ffotograffiaeth ti I dde America? Falle dylen ni ddod gyda ti wedi'r cwbl. Os mae hynny dal yn iawn gyda ti.
Beth yma job ofnadw na?
Ti'n iawn. Mae fe yn job ofnadw.
Oh, fydd e'n ffantastig.
My character is called Rhys. He is paired up with Gwen. Their relationship's kind of plodding along happily and not particularly eventful. And he gets this dream job to go out to Patagonia and photograph chapels, Welsh chapels in Patagonia. Asks her to go along with him, and she unexpectedly says yes.
Gwen's in a pretty bad place, really, when the film starts. I mean, the film opens when she hears the news that she isn't able to have a baby. And Rhys very much wants to have children, so she's too scared to tell him. And one can only guess, really, how damaging that could be in a relationship. And, of course, almost as soon as they arrive in Patagonia, things start falling apart.
For the Welsh, Patagonia was this unique adventure in our history, partly because I think there was this fantastic relationship that developed historically between the Welsh gauchos, as they became, the Welsh colony, and the indigenous Indians at the time that Argentina was forming. So it was amazing historical sort of coming together of disparate, elements. And so there were Welsh-speaking cowboys.
I think first impressions of the Mateo character is that he's a little bit of a Lothario. And, I think he takes a shine to Gwen immediately.
That?
And obviously blue on you.
Mateo, in the story sense, is a guide for Rhys and Gwen when they arrive in Patagonia. He's a little bit of a Peter Pan complex. He loves playing up to the image of the sort of slightly James Dean cowboy. What I liked about Mateo is that there are flaws behind the sort of facade of, the Zippo lighter and the rugged jeans.
When we first started talking about the project, Marc said we should do it in Welsh. In a way, if you're making a film about the links between Wales and Patagonia, then it would be wrong to not do it in Welsh and Spanish. And when you're there, people speak either Welsh or Spanish. And we thought, why not? Why not be true to the story?
I'm a Welsh speaker, it's my first language, but I'm not a Spanish speaker, so we realised really you had to subtitle everything to get an equal rhythm. I mean, because that's what the viewing experience is going to be for most people. So it was technically quite an interesting and at times scary process.
Bueno, que lo pido, ¿eh? Un brindis para el asador. Arriba la copa, vamos, arriba!
But then, we embarked upon this because for some reason I find it more interesting to embark on the unknown than I do on the known. That's the kind of the way it is, right? So you go, so it feels interesting and a good idea and slightly experimental in approach, and then you get to the nub of it and it's kind of make or break,
I suffers from my heart.
It's Rhys and Martin play pool drunk. Scene 141.
Martin is an Argentinian, Welsh speaker from Patagonia, who, having been to the Falklands War, lost the plot a bit. In fact, lost everything. these people on various journeys in the film, and he's on a never-ending journey. He never will go home. He never will find home, as it were.
When you go to Patagonia, the landscapes are so majestic because you go from the dust and the desert into the Andes and these snow-capped mountains. And one of our fears, having shot Patagonia first, was when we go to Wales, we want it to not look like the poor relation. We want it to look just as powerful, and the country blew us away.
We just shot 2 films, basically, and then hoped that they would come together, and that was the biggest challenge. Not so much the shooting of them, although one was especially, we did Argentina first and then Wales, so when we were shooting Wales we were thinking quite a lot about the transitions between the 2 stories, but at the end of the day I wanted them to feel like 2 short stories, I suppose, that collided but didn't necessarily always connect.
Para ser un país tan chico, cuesta bastante recorrerlo.
Marc came to me with this idea. I love the concept of it. I love the idea of this dream people have of living and having a better life somewhere else. And, already the theme really interested me. And I like the idea of having the 2 stories, the 2 strands, and how they correspond, and maybe things that come back in terms of the landscape. So it's almost like a piece of music, like how you compose a piece of music with themes and things, and the rhythm of it.
Split narratives are quite fashionable in a way now, and you've seen a lot of films that have done it supremely well. South American films in particular for some reason. But I hadn't, when we came to the edit, I thought I should just sort of see which other films have done 2 disconnected narratives, And I couldn't find any really, and I thought, is that because it's a bad idea? Is it doomed as a project? Because in a way, everything over and above the stories themselves relied on them somehow working and not, kind of boring or frustrating the audience in a way. And the way we solved it ultimately was we cut 2 films, and then we said, right, that's the essence of that film. Now where would one go across to the other story?
This is a very lovely story. I fall in love with the story and with the character. Her mother was Welsh, and she was sent to Patagonia because she was pregnant and she was very young, and the parents sent them there to Patagonia to hide this situation. I always had the fantasy to know this place which she left.
Alejandro, he's a boy from Patagonia. He goes to Buenos Aires with Carys, Marta's character, because she has to be operated on her eyes. So I go with her. I'm the one in charge of going with her, taking care of her. So we go to Buenos Aires, but then she changes her mind and she decides to go to Wales to look for her ancestors.
I think the plan with Wales was to kind of start in that bed and breakfast land of Cardiff, and the idea that, that to a Welsh Patagonian, certainly Wales was a kind of promised land, just like Patagonia has got this mythology for Welsh people. And you get here and it's kind of mundane and prosaic, and gradually as they work their way north, the country opens up.
Round that, what can I get you? Today we've got sausage, egg, bacon, burger and chips, cervello and chips, and double portions of £6. Got a few things in.
¿Qué dice?
No tengo idea.
This project felt so enormous to me, in loads of ways, because it was my debut.
Duffy came into the process early enough on that she was a great influence on that part. The first thing that she did, which really impressed me, was she sent me a kind of mood board for the character. Images and old postcards of Nevin and pictures from just, cut and paste stuff. She's a very visual person, Duffy, I think, and I think she approached it from that point of view, from the outside in, and found a girl who actually could be Duffy, who hadn't become a famous pop singer,
I took it very seriously. It wasn't just a whimsical moment in time. It was something that I truly thought, this is such a big thing for me in my life. I don't know if I'll ever make a movie again, but I'm going to remember this forever.
Patagonia it was such an intimate film. It was such a lovely experience, and everyone, we all ended up living together, and I mean, everyone bought into the dream of the sort of film we were making, and so it felt like a family in a way, going off to do something that they really wanted to do.